The Great Hall was bigger than any building Jake Harrison had ever seen on Earth. Crystal walls stretched up so high that clouds formed near the ceiling. Thousands of alien beings filled the seats, their strange voices creating a noise like angry bees. Some had 4 arms, others had tentacles instead of legs. A few glowed with their own light. Jake stood at a small platform in the center of it all. He wore his best black suit, the same one he had worn to his daughter's wedding 3 years ago. His hands were steady, but inside his chest, his heart beat fast. Behind him sat 3 other humans. Colonel Lisa Martinez kept her back straight, in her military uniform. Dr. Kevin Turner held a tablet computer close to his chest. Maria Santos, the cultural expert, watched the aliens with calm eyes. They had been here for 6 months. 6 long months of meetings, questions, and accusations. The aliens called it a trial, but Jake knew better. They had already made up their minds before the first day started. Chancellor Vextar rose from his golden chair. He was tall and thin, with purple skin and 4 arms that moved like dancing snakes. His voice filled the hall without any machine to make it louder. "We have heard all the evidence," he said. "We have listened to the arguments. The time has come for judgment." The hall grew quiet. Even the small alien children stopped their chittering sounds. Jake could hear his own breathing. "The species, called humanity, stands accused of 3 crimes," Vextar continued. "First, excessive violence in their past. Second, taking territory that was not given to them. Third, breaking the sacred peace laws that keep our galaxy safe." Jake wanted to speak. He wanted to tell them about the hospitals humans had built on alien worlds. He wanted to remind them of the food Earth had shared during the Great Famine on Kepler 7. He wanted to talk about the human scientists who had worked day and night to cure the plague that nearly killed the Zalani people. But the rules said he could only speak when asked. And Vextar was not asking. "The Council has voted," the Chancellor announced. 47 species voted for punishment. Only 3 voted against. 2 others chose not to vote at all. Behind Jake, he heard Lisa. "Take a sharp breath." Kevin's tablet made a soft beeping sound as he recorded everything. Maria remained silent. "The punishment is exile," Vexitar said. The words hit Jake like a punch to the stomach. "All humans must leave Council space within 60 standard days. This includes all colonies, all ships, all research stations, and all trade posts. When you leave, you may not return." The hall exploded with sound. Aliens clicked their claws together in approval. Others sang high notes that hurt Jake's ears. A few made sounds like thunder rolling across the sky. Jake felt numb. 60 days to move billions of people. 60 days to pack up 200 years of human presence in the galaxy. It seemed impossible. "Ambassador Harrison?" Chancellor Vextar called out. The hall grew quiet again. "Do you have anything to say? Will you ask for mercy? Will you beg us to change our minds?" Jake looked around. The Great Hall. He saw faces that had once smiled at him during trade meetings. He saw scientists who had worked with human researchers. He saw military officers who had fought alongside human soldiers against space pirates. None of them looked at him now. Jake gathered his papers and put them in his briefcase. The sound echoed in the silent hall. He stood up straight and looked directly at Chancellor Vextar. "We heard your decision, Chancellor," he said. His voice was calm and steady. "There is nothing more to talk about." He turned and walked toward the exit. His team followed behind him. Their footsteps clicked on the crystal floor. Every alien in the hall watched them leave, but nobody said a word. As they reached the huge doors, Chancellor Vexitar called out, again. "That is all human? No angry words? No threats? No promises of revenge?" Jake stopped but did not turn around. For a moment, the only sound was the soft hum of the building's power systems. "Chancellor," Jake said quietly, "we are not the same people who left Earth 200 years ago. We learned to be better. We hoped you could see that." He paused. "We were wrong." Then he walked through the doors, and humanity's time in the Galactic Council was over. Outside the Great Hall, Jake's team waited by their small ship. It looked tiny next to the huge alien vessels that filled the landing area. Lisa was already talking into her radio, sending coded messages to human colonies across the galaxy. Kevin was typing rapidly on his tablet, his fingers moving so fast they were just a blur. "What are your orders, sir?" Lisa asked when she finished her radio call. Jake looked up at the alien city that stretched above them. Flying cars moved between tall buildings that twisted like DNA strands. 3 different suns shone down from the purple sky. It was beautiful, but it had never felt like home. "Send the withdrawal code to all human settlements," he said. "Operation Exodus begins now." "All of them, sir?" Maria asked. "Even the research stations? Even the deep space colonies?" "All of them," Jake confirmed. "Every human facility, every outpost, every single person. We are leaving Council space completely." Kevin looked up from his tablet. "Sir, some of our colonies have been there for 50 years. The people there were born in space. Earth is just a story to them." "Then they will learn new stories," Jake replied. "We go where we are wanted. Clearly that is not here." As their ship lifted off from the alien world, Jake watched the great city shrink below them. Somewhere down there, the council members were probably celebrating. They thought they had solved their human problem. They had no idea what they had really done. What the aliens did not know was that Dr. Kevin Turner was much more than a simple science advisor. He was one of Earth's best intelligence officers, trained in methods the council had never imagined. For 6 months, his innocent-looking tablet had been recording every private conversation, every secret meeting, every strategic discussion the council had held. The tablet also contained detailed maps of every council military base, every trade route, every resource depot, and every weakness in their defenses. Not because humans planned to attack, but because Jake Harrison believed in being prepared for anything. As their ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, heading for the edge of Council space, Kevin was already uploading everything to the secret human communication network. Within hours, every human colony commander would know exactly what the Council was capable of, what they planned to do next, and how to avoid them completely. The Council thought they were getting rid of a problem. Instead, they had just created their first real competition in 1,000 years. And unlike every other species they had ever dealt with, humans had a talent for thriving in places where no one wanted them. Jake Harrison stared out at the stars streaming past their ship and smiled for the first time in months. The Council had given humanity something precious without even knowing it. They had given them freedom. Now it was time to see what humans could build when no one was watching over their shoulders, telling them what they could and could not do. The galaxy was about to discover that exiling humanity was the biggest mistake the Council had ever made. The message reached New Geneva Colony at exactly 800 hours local time. Pete Johnson was checking the morning harvest reports when his communication screen lit up with an official seal. 3 simple words appeared. Operation Exodus confirmed. Pete had been expecting this message for months, but seeing it still made his stomach twist. He looked out the window of his office at the vast green fields that stretched to the horizon. Wheat, corn, and soybeans grew in perfect rows under the artificial sun that humans had built in this world's sky. The air was clean and sweet, filled with the smell of growing things. This planet had been a dead rock when humans first arrived 30 years ago. Now it was a garden that fed 12 different alien worlds in this sector. Pete's grandfather would have been proud to see what human farmers could do with enough time and determination. But now they had to leave it all behind. Pete walked to his desk and pressed the emergency button that connected him to every farm supervisor on the planet. Within seconds, 47 faces appeared on his wall screen. Men and women who had spent their lives turning dirt into food. "You all got the message," Pete said simply. "We have 48 hours to complete the withdrawal. I want every piece of human equipment loaded onto the transport ships. Every seed bank, every piece of research data, every tool that we brought with us." A woman named Carol spoke up from Farm Station 7. "What about the crops? We have enough food here to feed millions of people. The Zilani depend on our grain shipments." The crops stay, Pete replied. The equipment that grows them comes with us. The aliens can figure out how to run the farms themselves. Pete, said an older man named Frank, some of these machines are older than my grandchildren. The aliens don't know how to fix them. Without maintenance, everything will break down in 6 months. Pete was quiet for a long moment. He thought about the Zilani families he had met at the trade conferences. Good people who worked hard and treated humans with respect. Their children would go hungry when the farm stopped working, but the council had voted. Humans were not welcome in this galaxy anymore. That is not our problem now, Pete said finally. Load everything that belongs to us. Leave instruction manuals for the rest, but take all the spare parts. We follow our orders. The supervisors signed off one by one. Soon Pete was alone in his office looking at fields that would be empty tomorrow. He picked up a photo from his desk. It showed him standing next to Zethai, a Zilani farmer who had worked alongside humans for 15 years. They were both smiling, holding a prize-winning pumpkin that weighed 800 pounds. Pete put the photo in his travel bag and walked out to oversee the evacuation. 3 star systems away, Captain Beth Williams received the same message aboard, her merchant ship Endeavor. She was docked at Kepler Station, a massive trade hub that floated in empty space between 5 different worlds. The station was always busy, filled with ships from dozens of alien species buying and selling everything, from rare metals to exotic foods. Beth had been trading here for 12 years. She knew the station managers, the dock workers, even the alien children who played in the corridors while their parents conducted business. It was the closest thing to home she had known since leaving Earth. Her first officer, Danny Rodriguez, knocked on her cabin door. "Captain, the message came through. What are your orders?" Beth looked at the cargo manifest on her desk. They were carrying medical supplies for an Arcturian colony that was fighting a disease outbreak. The medicine would save thousands of lives, but Operation Exodus meant all human ships had to leave Council space immediately. "How long until the next scheduled supply ship reaches the Arcturians?" she asked. Danny checked his computer. 6 weeks, Captain, but that is assuming the Council arranges for replacement deliveries. 6 weeks was too long. People would die waiting for medicine that was sitting right here in Beth's cargo hold. But if she delayed her departure to make the delivery, she would be disobeying direct orders from Earth Command. Beth made her decision. "We deliver the medicine first. Then we leave Council space. Log it as a humanitarian mission." "Captain, that could get us in trouble with our own command," Danny warned. "Let me worry about that," Beth replied. "Plot a course for the Arcturian system. Maximum speed." The Endeavor left Kepler Station without saying goodbye to anyone. The alien dock workers watched in confusion as the human ship departed ahead of schedule without filing the proper paperwork. They had no idea they would never see another human merchant vessel again. Meanwhile, at the Prometheus research station orbiting the black hole NGC 7742, Dr. Alex Chen was facing the hardest decision of his career. For 15 years, he had worked alongside scientists from 12 different alien species to unlock the secrets of gravity and space-time. They were so close to a breakthrough that could revolutionize space travel for everyone. His research partner, Dr. Zethai of the Arcturian Science Institute, knocked on his lab door. The tall, blue-skinned alien entered with a worried expression on his face. "Alex, I heard rumors about your people leaving the Council. Please tell me it is not true," Zethai said in his musical voice. Alex continued typing at his computer, downloading 15 years of research data onto secure drives. "It is true, my friend. The Council voted to exile humanity. We have to go." Zethai's large eyes grew even larger. "But the project, Alex, we are only months away from completing the new faster-than-light drive. This could benefit all species in the galaxy." Alex paused in his work. The alien was right. Their joint research could change everything. But the data belonged to both human and alien science institutions. If Alex left it behind, the aliens would get all the credit for work that humans had contributed to equally. "I am sorry, Zethai," Alex said as he continued downloading files. The council decided they do not want human help anymore. That means they do not get to keep the results of human work either. Alex, please be reasonable, Scifi pleaded. This research belongs to all of us. You cannot just take it away. Alex finished downloading the last file and started wiping the shared computer systems. Years of joint research disappeared from the servers as he deleted everything that contained human ideas or discoveries. The council was not reasonable with us, Alex replied calmly. Why should we be reasonable with them? Scifi watched in horror as decades of scientific collaboration vanished from the computers. Alex, you are destroying years of work. How can you do this? Alex picked up his bag and walked toward the door. He paused and looked back at his former partner with sad eyes. Scifi, you have been a good friend and a brilliant scientist. I hope you understand someday that we did not choose this. Then, choose differently now, Scifi begged. Stay, fight the decision. Show them that humans belong here. Alex shook his head. We tried that for 200 years. The council voted. We heard their answer. He walked out of the lab and down the corridor toward the human transport shuttle. Behind him, he could hear Scifi calling his name, but Alex did not look back. The alien would have to finish their research alone if he could. All across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on 47 different worlds. Human miners shut down operations and sealed the entrances to underground complexes. Human doctors finished treating their alien patients, then packed up their medical equipment. Human teachers said goodbye to alien students without explaining why they would not return tomorrow. The most disturbing part was the silence. Humans did not complain or argue. They did not ask for more time or try to negotiate exceptions. They simply followed their orders with quiet efficiency, leaving behind decades of work and friendship without a word of explanation. Within 72 hours, every human presence in council space had vanished. Ships, stations, colonies, and outposts that had operated for generations were suddenly empty. The humans had taken everything that belonged to them, but left behind all the infrastructure they had built for alien communities. The aliens watched, in growing confusion and unease. They had expected anger, threats, maybe even attempts at sabotage. Instead, they got polite efficiency and complete withdrawal. It was as if humanity had simply decided that the Galactic Council no longer existed. 6 months after the last human ship disappeared from council space, the first cracks began to show. Trade Minister Colron of the Hegemony Worlds stared at the numbers on his screen and could not believe what he was seeing. This cannot be correct, he muttered to his assistant, a young hegemony named Telwyn. Run the calculations again. Telwyn's 6 fingers danced across the computing device. After a few minutes, the same numbers appeared. I am sorry, Minister, but the data is accurate. Our rare metal imports have dropped by 31% since the humans left. Colron rubbed his scaled forehead. The Hegemony Worlds needed rare metals to build their famous starships. Without enough materials, their shipyards would have to slow down production. That meant fewer jobs, less money, and angry citizens asking difficult questions. How did this happen? He asked. The humans were supposed to be primitive miners. They only worked the small asteroids that nobody else wanted. That is what we thought, Telwyn replied. But our analysts discovered that humans were very good at finding metals in places we thought were empty. They also developed new methods for extracting materials from low-grade ore that we ignored. Colron looked at the star chart on his wall. Red dots marked all the mining operations that had gone silent when humans left. There were dozens of them scattered across space that the hegemony had considered worthless. Can we restart these operations? Ourselves? He asked. Telwyn's expression grew worried. We tried, Minister. We sent teams to 3 different human mining sites. The equipment is still there, but we cannot figure out how to operate it. The humans took all their technical experts with them. What about the instruction manuals? The manuals are written in human languages and use human measurements. Our best engineers are still trying to understand the basic systems. Colron felt a cold fear growing in his stomach. If the hegemony could not replace the human mining operations quickly, their entire economy would suffer. Other council species would see them as weak and might try to take advantage. How long until we can train our own people to do this work? He asked. Our experts estimate 2 to 3 years, assuming we can decode the human technology, Telwyn answered. 2 to 3 years. Kulran's government would not survive that long without the metals they needed. He would have to find another solution, and fast. Meanwhile, on the other side of council space, Admiral Korthran of the Draconis fleet was discovering an even more serious problem. He stood in the command center of his flagship, staring at a tactical display that showed empty space where there should have been warning signals. Confirm the status of Sensor Station Delta 7, he ordered his communications officer. No response, Admiral. The station went dark 3 days ago, just like all the others. Admiral Korthran counted the dead zones on his display. 17. Sensor stations along the outer rim had stopped transmitting. These stations were supposed to watch for threats from the unexplored regions beyond council space. The Admiral had not paid much attention when humans volunteered to operate these remote outposts. The stations were small, boring assignments that most species avoided. Humans seemed happy to take jobs that others did not want. Now those boring stations were revealed as something much more important. Together, they formed an early warning network that could detect hostile ships or dangerous phenomena weeks before they reached populated systems. Sir, his tactical officer reported, we are receiving distress calls from the mining colony on Xerion Prime. They report unknown ships approaching their system. Admiral Korthran felt his blood turn cold. Xerion Prime was deep inside council space, far from any known threats. If hostile ships had reached that far without being detected, it meant they had slipped through the sensor network while the human stations were offline. How many ships, he asked. The colony reports at least 12 vessels of unknown design. They are not responding to communication attempts. The Admiral looked at his tactical display again. If the human sensor stations had still been operational, his fleet would have known about these intruders days ago. Now they were discovering the threat only when it was almost too late to respond. Order Battle Group 3 to intercept, he commanded. Maximum speed. As his ships raced to defend the mining colony, Admiral Korthran realized that the Draconis fleet had a much bigger problem. The human-operated sensor stations had not just been watching for external threats. They had also been quietly monitoring and coordinating with each other, creating a sophisticated intelligence network that the Council had never fully understood. Without that network, the Draconis fleet was operating blind in a galaxy full of potential dangers. Back on the Council homeworld, Chancellor Vextar was trying to manage a crisis that seemed to grow worse each day. His office was filled with angry representatives from different species, all demanding answers about the problems caused by humanity's departure. Chancellor, said Representative Mordak of the Crystalline Collective, our deep space exploration program has completely stopped. We cannot navigate the dangerous regions without human guidance systems. The humans were just pilots, Vextar replied, trying to stay calm. Surely your own people can learn to fly ships in deep space. Mordak's crystalline body flashed red with anger. You do not understand, Chancellor. Humans did not just fly the ships, they designed the navigation computers, the safety protocols, the emergency procedures. They created systems that kept our explorers alive in places where one mistake means death. Then use your own navigation systems, Vextar suggested. Our systems work fine in normal space, Mordak explained. But near black holes, neutron stars, and other dangerous phenomena, only human systems were reliable enough. We lost 3 exploration ships last month because we tried to use our old navigation methods. Chancellor Vextar felt a headache building behind his eyes. Every day brought new reports of problems caused by the human exodus. Systems that had worked perfectly for decades were failing. Trade routes that had been reliable for centuries were disrupting. Even simple things like food distribution were becoming complicated without human logistics experts. Representative Salthi of the Mentari Consciousness requests permission to speak, announced Vextar's assistant. The Mentari representative floated into the room, her gaseous body shimmering with colors that indicated deep concern. Chancellor, my people wish to formally protest the exile of humanity. The vote was taken legally, Vextar replied. The decision cannot be changed. The vote was taken based on incomplete information, Zalthi said. My people abstained because we felt the council did not fully understand how integrated humans had become in our civilization. Humans were always a small part of our society, Vextar insisted. Zalthi's colors shifted to indicate disagreement. Small in numbers, perhaps, but they filled critical roles that no other species wanted or could perform effectively. They were the connecting tissue that held many of our systems together. Other species can learn to do those jobs, the Chancellor said. Can they? Zalthi asked. Humans had a unique combination of traits that made them valuable. They were innovative but not reckless. They were reliable but not rigid. They could work with any species without trying to dominate or compete unnecessarily. Vexitar waved his forearms dismissively. You speak as if humans were irreplaceable. No species is irreplaceable. Perhaps, Zalthi replied, but replacing them will take years, maybe decades. In the meantime, our civilization is discovering how much we depended on people we barely noticed. As the meeting continued, reports kept arriving from across the galaxy. Economic disruptions, security gaps, technical failures, and supply shortages were spreading like a disease through council space. The removal of humanity was creating problems that nobody had anticipated. The most troubling part was the silence. Human ships had been spotted on long-range sensors in distant star systems, but they ignored all attempts at communication. When council vessels approached human settlements, they received polite but firm messages to leave immediately. Humanity had not just left council space. They had built walls around themselves and were refusing all contact with their former neighbors. Chancellor, Vextar began to wonder if the council had made a terrible mistake. But pride and politics made it impossible to admit error, so the problems continued to grow while the galaxy learned to function without the humans they had taken for granted. Captain Ralvek of the Zilani exploration ship, Morning Star, had been searching the outer regions for 3 months when his sensors detected something impossible. He was flying through the Kepler 438 system, a region of space that all the star charts marked as empty and lifeless, but his instruments were telling a different story. Science Officer Gentai, confirm these readings, he ordered, his voice tight with disbelief. Gentai bent over her console, her long fingers adjusting the sensor controls with practiced skill. Captain, I am detecting massive energy signatures from 6 different planets in this system. The readings indicate large-scale industrial activity, orbital habitats, and what appears to be a significant population. That is impossible, Ralvek said. This system has been surveyed twice in the past 50 years. There was nothing here but dead rocks and gas giants. Sir, called out Communications Officer Voraran from his station, I am also detecting artificial structures around the 4th planet. They appear to be space elevators connecting the surface to orbital platforms. Ralvek stared at the main screen as his ship moved deeper into the system. What he saw made his heart skip beats. Massive cities floated in the clouds of the gas. Giants held up by technology he did not recognize. Underground complexes stretched across the surfaces of rocky worlds, their lights visible even from space. Ships moved between the planets in organized traffic patterns. But the most shocking discovery came when Gentai ran a detailed scan of the life signs. Captain, she said, her voice barely a whisper, I am detecting over 50 million human life signs in this system. The bridge fell silent. Humans. 50 million of them living in a place that was supposed to be empty. Ralvek felt his mind struggling to understand what this meant. How is this possible? He asked. Humans were exiled only 2 years ago. How could they build all of this so quickly? Sir, Voran interrupted, we are receiving an incoming transmission. A human voice filled the bridge, speaking in perfect galactic standard. This is traffic control for the free human systems. You are entering sovereign human space. Please identify yourself and state your purpose. Ralvek straightened in his command chair. This is Captain Ralvek of the Zilani vessel Morning Star. We are on a scientific exploration mission for the Galactic Council. There was a pause before the human voice replied. Captain Ralvek, you are not welcome in this system. Please reverse course and return to Council space immediately. Wait, Ralvek said quickly. We mean no harm. We are simply exploring. We had no idea humans were living here. The Galactic Council voted to exile humanity from their space, the voice replied calmly. We respect that decision and expect the same respect in return. You have 10 minutes to begin your departure, or you will be escorted out. Ralvek looked at his tactical display. 3 human ships had appeared on his sensors, moving toward his vessel at incredible speed. The ships were sleek and powerful, unlike anything in the Council database. Their design was completely new, incorporating technology that seemed decades ahead of anything the Council possessed. Captain, whispered Gentai, those ships are using a form of propulsion I have never seen before. They are not using fusion drives or antimatter engines. I cannot identify their power source. The lead human ship moved alongside the Morning Star with fluid grace. Ralvek could see through the viewports that it was crewed entirely by humans, but their equipment and uniforms were unlike anything he remembered from his previous encounters with human traders. This is Commander Rachel Stone of the Human Defense Force, came a new voice over the communication system. Captain Ralvek, you seem like a reasonable being, so I will explain our position clearly. The Galactic Council made it very clear that humans are not welcome in their space. We have accepted that decision and built our own space out here. Commander Stone, Ralvek replied, surely there can be peaceful contact between our peoples. The Zilani have always maintained friendly relations with humanity. The Zilani abstained from the exile vote, Commander Stone acknowledged. We remember our friends, Captain. But we also remember that your government chose not to defend us when we needed support. Ralvek felt shame wash over him. The Zilani government had indeed chosen neutrality during the human trial, hoping to avoid taking sides. Now he realized how that decision must have looked to the humans who had helped his people during their time of need. Commander, what you have built here is remarkable, he said, changing the subject. How did humans create so much in just 2 years? There was another pause before Commander Stone answered. Who told you we built this in 2 years, Captain? Well, humans were only exiled 2 years ago, Ralvek explained. Before that, all human settlements were in council space. Commander Stone's laugh had no humor in it. Captain, humans have been preparing for this possibility for much longer than 2 years. We knew that someday the council might decide we did not belong. So we made preparations. Ralvek's mind raced as he understood the implications. You mean humans were building colonies outside council space while they were still members? We never broke any council laws. Commander Stone replied. There are no laws against settling in unclaimed systems. We simply decided to have options available in case we ever needed them. Gentai was frantically scanning the human ships and settlements, gathering as much data as possible. Captain, she whispered, their technology is far more advanced than anything in council space. Their ships are faster, their weapons more powerful, their cities more efficient. How did they make such progress so quickly? Commander Stone seemed to hear the whispered conversation. Science officer, when a species is told they are not wanted, they have 2 choices. They can give up and fade away, or they can prove that rejection was a mistake. We chose to prove a point. What point? Ralvek asked. That humanity does not need the Council's permission to thrive, Commander Stone answered. We do not need your approval to build great things. We do not need your acceptance to become something better than what we were. The human commander's words carried a weight that made Ralvek uncomfortable. There was no anger in her voice, no bitterness or desire for revenge. There was only calm confidence and a sense of purpose that was somehow more unsettling than any threat would have been. Captain Ralvek, Commander Stone continued, your 10 minutes are almost up. I strongly suggest you begin your departure now. Wait, Ralvek said desperately. Can you at least tell me how many systems like this exist? How large has humanity grown? Large enough, was the only answer Commander Stone gave. As the Morning Star turned to leave the system, Ralvek ordered Gentai to run every sensor scan possible. What they discovered was even more shocking than the colonies themselves. The quantum signature analysis suggested that this was not humanity's only settlement. The data pointed to at least 12 other star systems with similar human populations, all connected by some form of instantaneous communication network that the council had never seen before. "Captain," Gentai said quietly, "if the readings are correct, there may be more humans living outside council space than there ever were inside it." Ralvek stared at the human colonies shrinking on his screen. The implications were staggering. While the council had been debating whether humanity was worthy of membership, humans had been quietly building their own civilization that surpassed anything the council had achieved. As the morning star jumped back to council space, Ralvek realized he was carrying news that would shake the galaxy. Humanity had not just survived their exile, they had used it as an opportunity to become something the council could never have imagined. The question was, what would the council do when they learned the truth? 3 years after the exile vote, Chancellor Vexitar sat alone in his office staring at a sealed message container on his desk. The container bore the official diplomatic seal of Ambassador Jake Harrison, the human who had walked out of the council chamber with such quiet dignity years ago. The message had arrived that morning with no fanfare, delivered by an automated probe that had appeared in council space for exactly 10 minutes before vanishing again. No human ship had been detected. No explanation had been given for how the probe had traveled so far so quickly. Vextar's hands shook slightly as he activated the message. Jake Harrison's face appeared on the screen, looking older but somehow more peaceful than when they had last met. "Chancellor Vextar," the recording began, "you asked me 3 years ago if we had nothing to say when you voted to exile us. The truth is we had been saying it for 30 years, but you were not listening." The Chancellor leaned back in his chair. Outside his window, the great city of the council homeworld stretched toward the horizon, but it seemed smaller now than it had 3 years ago. Less important somehow. "Every research paper we shared," Harrison continued, "every technological innovation we contributed, every peaceful solution we offered to your conflicts, was our way of saying that we belonged among the stars with you. But you saw only our history, our mistakes, our capacity for violence when threatened. You never saw our capacity for growth, for creation, for building bridges between different species." Vextar remembered those research papers. Human scientists had indeed contributed valuable discoveries over the decades, but the Council had always seen these as lucky accidents, not evidence of human intelligence or worth. "Your exile taught us something valuable," Harrison said with a slight smile. "We do not need your approval to exist, to thrive, or to become something greater than what we were. We have found our own path among the stars, and we have found other species out here who value cooperation over fear, growth over stagnation." "Other species?" Vextar felt a chill run through his body. What other species? The galaxy beyond council space was supposed to be empty of intelligent life. "The galaxy is vast, Chancellor," Harrison continued. "There was room for all of us. But you chose to make it smaller, and now you must live with the consequences of that choice." The message paused, and Harrison seemed to look directly at Vextar through the screen. "We harbor no anger toward the Council. We simply have nothing more to discuss with you." The recording ended with Harrison's signature and a formal seal. But there was more data in the message container. Vextar opened the attached files and found star charts showing the locations of 47 human colonies, detailed technical specifications for faster-than-light drives that made council ships look like toys, and most shocking of all, an immigration application form. The form was addressed to any council citizens who wished to apply for residency in human space. The requirements were simple: useful skills, willingness to work cooperatively with other species, and a commitment to peaceful problem-solving. At the bottom was a note that applications should be submitted through the Mentari consciousness, who had apparently maintained secret diplomatic contact with humanity throughout the exile. Vextar stared at the immigration form for a long time. It was written in 12 different languages, including several he did not recognize. The implication was clear. Humans were not only thriving in exile, they were attracting immigrants from species the Council had never even met. A soft chime indicated that his assistant was requesting entry. Vextar quickly closed the message files and called for the assistant to enter. "Chancellor," the young aide said nervously, "there is a situation developing. We are receiving reports of massive migrations from several member worlds. What kind of migrations? Vextar asked, though he feared he already knew the answer. Citizens are leaving council space, sir. Entire families, sometimes whole communities. Our intelligence services report that they are traveling to human-controlled systems. Vextar felt the room spinning around him. How many? The numbers are still coming in, but preliminary estimates suggest over 2 million council citizens have emigrated in the past 6 months. The rate is accelerating. 2 million citizens. That was more than the entire human population that had been exiled from council space. Vextar struggled to understand how this was possible. What reasons are they giving for leaving? He asked. The assistant consulted his data tablet. Economic opportunity is the most common reason cited. Many report that human colonies offer better jobs, more advanced technology, and higher standards of living. But there are other factors as well. Such as freedom of research, sir. Many of our best scientists report that human space offers unlimited funding for projects that the council considers too dangerous or expensive. Artists say they can create works that would be censored here. Engineers claim they can build things that our safety regulations prevent. Vextar rubbed his forehead with all 4 hands. The council's careful regulations and conservative policies, designed to maintain order and prevent conflicts, were driving their best and brightest citizens to seek opportunities elsewhere. There is more, sir, the assistant continued reluctantly. We have confirmed reports that several non-council species have established diplomatic relations with human colonies. Species we have never encountered before are apparently joining what humans call the Free Alliance. Free Alliance? Vextar repeated. Yes, sir. Intelligence suggests it is a loose confederation of species that operates on principles of voluntary cooperation and mutual benefit. Unlike our council, membership is not mandatory for trade or diplomatic relations, but it offers significant advantages to participants. Vextar walked to his window and looked out at the city below. The streets seemed less busy than they had been a year ago. The spaceport had fewer ships coming and going. The great council chambers echoed with empty seats as smaller species found excuses to skip sessions. Sir, his assistant said quietly, there is one more thing. The Mentari consciousness has formally requested that the council reconsider the human exile. They claim new evidence suggests the original charges were based on incomplete information. What new evidence? Vextar asked, though he suspected he did not want to know. According to the Mentari, human colonies have successfully resolved territorial disputes with over 30 different species without violence. They have shared advanced medical technology that has eliminated diseases affecting billions of beings. They have also developed environmental restoration techniques that are being used to repair worlds damaged by industrial activity. Each fact hit Vextar like a physical blow. Everything the council had claimed humans were incapable of, they had apparently achieved in exile. The Mentari also report that human space operates under a justice system that has completely eliminated violent crime in their territories, the assistant continued. They claim that humans have evolved beyond the aggressive tendencies that the council feared. Vextar turned back to his desk and looked at the sealed message container. Jake Harrison's final words echoed in his memory. We have nothing more to discuss. What does the council want me to do about the immigration situation? He asked. Some members suggest we should prevent our citizens from leaving, the assistant replied. Others argue we should try to negotiate with the humans. And what do you think the humans would say if we tried to negotiate? Vextar asked. The assistant was quiet for a moment. Based on their past behavior, sir, I suspect they would politely decline to meet with us. They seem to have moved beyond needing our approval for anything they do. Vextar nodded slowly. The council had spent centuries believing they were the center of galactic civilization. Now they were discovering that civilization could not only exist without them, but could thrive in ways they had never imagined possible. The greatest punishment the council could devise had become humanity's greatest gift, the freedom to become everything they were meant to be without anyone else's permission. Outside Vextar's window, another transport ship lifted off from the spaceport, carrying more council citizens toward human space and the promise of a better future among the stars.